Do you have like specific techniques or tools that you like to go back whenever you start developing a new character?
In the shadows of Arrakis lie many secrets, but the darkest of them all may remain the end of House Atreides.
You guys, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this movie, you probably heard this a lot of times today, but it's amazing. So congratulations on your work. I love your movies. Enemy is one of my favorite films of all times. And this is great. I wish you could be like us, like the audience, to feel what we felt watching this movie. I mean, I wish you could experience that because it's great.
But you're very generous, thank you. It might happen in the future when I don't have any distance with the movie right now because I've seen it hundreds of times.
Exactly. But you know, I have to say, like for me, every frame of this movie really shows your love for cinema. And I really believe that making a movie is like a jump of faith, you know, it's really hard to make a movie. So I wanted to ask you, personally, what keeps you in love with making films? What, even if it means a lot of struggle and obstacles, why do you keep making movies?
The idea that I can do better. The idea that as a film director, when you finish a movie, you see your where you succeeded, but you see also, more importantly, where you failed. Where you had like, there's the initial dreams where you feel, and then you see there's things that you say, I wish I had done better there. I wish I had done that. And the next time you try to improve, you try to learn from your mistakes, and that's what drives me forward. It's just the idea that I can be better.
There's something in me, because when you see a string of movies and you're left without that thing, because I remember being a kid and seeing a movie and the lights go down, you have your popcorn, you have your Milk Duds, and then you leave the experience. I remember seeing The Matrix for the first time, and I went outside of the theater. I was by myself. I went outside of the theater and I turned around and I walked right back in the theater and I saw it again. It wasn't Interstellar, it was another one. But anyway, I felt that about certain movies in my life, and they've had this cellular effect on me. So I think when I watch movies, I want that experience. My standard is so high and I want that cellular experience. When I'm involved in movies like this, I'm lucky enough to work with filmmakers that have a vision that's that big, the scope that is that big, but also has the ability to keep it emotional, you know? So something in me wants to go, oh, they don't make movies like they used to anymore, and then somebody comes along and hits you with, you know, a life-changing experience, and that's what keeps me loving movies.
And the first time that you were telling people that you were going to be a part of DUNE, which was like the more common comment that you were getting? And was there a comment that got stuck in your mind, like you shared with someone, I'm gonna be a part of DUNE, and they responded in a way that is stuck with you?
I don't know if it's specifically that scenario, but I have noticed, obviously I didn't get the luxury of knowing the books or being familiar with the books growing up. And then I was kind of introduced to them through the film. And then all of a sudden I realized that it had been there all along. And I just didn't know it. There was so many cultural references and things like that just went over my head because I didn't know. And now I get it. And now it's like everywhere, you know, you see DUNE and everything. But I will say something that sticks with me is just when people are like, when they say simply like, I can't wait to see the next one. Or that, you know, I grew up reading the books. I love what Denny did. You know, I think that is a true compliment because there are people who really care about the books and they meant something to them, to their childhood, to their young adulthood, whatever it is that, whatever point in life they were able to read these books. I think being a part of that journey for them and being able to realize something from, you know, reading it back when you were a teenager to now seeing it this way, and it truly maybe living up to an expectation that you maybe had in your head, I think I'm sure means a lot to them, so that means a lot to me.
I mean, exactly what Zendaya said, but I remember a few of my friends are massive DUNE buffs, like massive DUNE nerds, and have been their entire life. And when I told them that I was in the second one, they looked at me and were like, who are you playing? And I was like, Princess Irulan. And their mouths open, they were like, you know what she does, right? And I'm like, nope, don't tell me, I need to read the book.
La, la, la. And you know, I mean, the first part of DUNE blew my mind. I think it's a beautiful movie, I really loved it. When you were reading the script for the second part, was there like a scene or a moment that you were really curious to know how Denis was going to make that happen? Like, how he's going to make this a reality?
I feel that about the whole movie. I feel that when I read the script, you know, sometimes you get overwhelmed by a script. You see where you have your 2 cents in it as Gurney, but as an entire, I think I've always been interested in the filmmaking process, so I'm in awe of Denis. Somebody who is able to put all these characters, not little characters, but all these characters, but not only that, how it's shot, how the production design, how it's edited, when to use practical and when to use, you know, when to digitize things. I think that it takes a certain type of person, and there's not very many people like that in the world, so yeah.
I didn't even try pretending to imagine what things looked like. I just actually read it as dialogue. I didn't, any time that it was describing a place or a this or a garden, I was just like, there's no point in me even trying to imagine what that's gonna look like. It's not gonna look like it. And then it's actually gonna be so much more exciting to see what Denis does. So that, yeah, there's no point.
In part 1, it might have been the sequence where Paul Atreides and Lady Jessica are running across the desert and the sandworm is chasing them, and then they arrive on the rock and the sandworm comes out of the earth. Yeah, that I was curious just how the hell they were gonna do that, you know, and done so skillfully. Paul Lambert, the visual effects supervisor, he's best in class, you know, he's, anyway, always gotta shout out the visual effects department because it's them who does it, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
They're so fantastic. I would say the sandworm sequence in part 2 for me. And they all worked so hard for months and months to get that, what is it, 3 minutes in the film?
Yeah.
But they worked so hard to get that. It's incredible.
So I think that in this movie we can see how a lot of expectations are placed on one single person, and I think that a lot of expectations were put on your shoulders from fans and from, you know, all the crew and everything. How do you work in order to try to fill those expectations from people, but without abandoning your own vision and what you want to do?
I don't think about other people. I think about the audience by trying to be generous with the cinema, by trying to bring something meaningful and that resonate on screen. But I'm not thinking about how they will receive the film. I'm the first audience. I try to please the guy I was when I was 12 years old, but that's it. I cannot predict how people will react. Yeah.
So you try to follow your own vision all the time, what you want to portray.
Yes.
And you know, something that it's really fascinating to me is how the Fremen have this technique to navigate and to surviving the desert. So I wanted to ask you, as actors, do you have like a special technique or tools that you like to have when you try to work in a new character, like something that you like to go back to that helps you to develop a new character?
I can only speak for myself, but I think every new character is a new approach, a new process. You know, I remember Oscar Isaac, who's in the first Dune, he was talking to me when we were on set the first time saying, oh, I'm going back to Juilliard, which is the most prestigious acting, you know, college where he went to go speak to the students there. And I said, oh, what are you gonna say, you know? And he said, well, I feel like saying to them, they know more about what they're doing than I know what I'm doing. So to your question, I feel like having a novice mentality, you know, not knowing, that's what keeps me hungry. As soon as you know what a weird job to know what you're doing.
Yeah, completely.
Right?
Yeah. I actually saw this thing this morning with Adam Driver talking about it, where he was saying when it's similar to being in a new country and you have to get on the time zone of that new country. And at first it's kind of that awkward phase where your body isn't adjusted, and then through, and as actors, you're just soaking in as much information as you possibly can,
trying to
and
figure it
leaving no
out.
stone unturned. And I love that description.
Yeah.
I know for this film, it was important for me to like learn the dialogue early.
Right.
So that by the time I got there, I
You were
wasn't
free.
thinking about words, because the dialogue is so specific. It's, you know, it's not something you can improv or add your own kind of twist to. It's very specific, and so it was important to really just lock into those words so that when we are there, I'm not wasting any time or getting lost in words. I can more so focus on Chani and what she's feeling.
I'm the same with that with monologues. If I ever have a large page, I'll make sure I actually don't like learning things until like maybe like a few days beforehand or even the day before. But with a big thing, I'll learn that weeks previous, so that like on the day, it's
free.
just absolutely like it can just come out like thoughts as opposed to a learned monologue that I've quickly learned the night before.
So when you hesitate on some things, do you have like key elements or like pillars that you always stick to when you're hesitating that you go back to?
It's a very good question. I would say that specifically on Dune, I had like a secret weapon, which was the book. Frank's Herbert books was the Bible for all the crew. So it's something I could always relate to.
Was there something specifically about the first part of Dune that you were trying to improve for this second one?
Absolutely, there's many things. I was feeling that, but I don't want to fall into details. Those belongs to me.
Okay. This movie also talks about mentorship. So I wanted to ask you, since you're a mentor as well in the film, if there was like a dynamic in the cast that you were able to talk to the young actors. Did they ask you for advice on how to create their characters? Was there something like that during the
I mean, I think it's very personal. I don't want to out them, but yeah, there's been a lot of questions of how to navigate celebrity and how to navigate the sudden attention and all that, especially between Timothée and Austin. But I appreciate that because they become vulnerable and they go like, what is this? And I don't know any of this. And how do you continue? I think the worry is that you continue to do the best work that you can do along with this other stuff that comes with it. And I think sometimes, at least in my experience, I've seen young actors get very confused by the two. You know, they kind of lose themselves in the celebrity and they forget about the work. But I think if the work stays good, it all is the right place for it to springboard from.
And there's a scene with Christopher Walken, and it's one of the most impressive scenes in the movie. I cannot imagine how you guys were feeling in that moment. I mean, everything is crazy, your characters are super intense, but that moment, it's full of, you know, intenseness. I don't know if that word exists, but you know what I'm saying. So do you remember how you felt in that specific scene before something is about to happen between you two when you face the character of Christopher Walken?
The intensity of the legends in that room, but the Emperor himself, a symbol of power across decades, centuries, being that in real life to us, as Christopher Walken. You know, King of New York and Deer Hunter, the list goes on and on, you know, and there he is. We're the new, or Paul Atreides in that moment is the new, trying to be the new ascendant, you know, claim to power. You know, you can't not feel it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so special anytime you're around actors like Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
I felt the same thing being around Javier Bardem or Josh Brolin or Charlotte Rampling. They're just legends, and so I felt very just grateful every day.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, you guys. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you very much.
Have fun in Mexico.
All right, I will.
Make thy knife chip and shatter.